Okay, if I could have your attention, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our next speaker. It's Dr. James Dively. He graduated from Greenfield Kimmel High School, and for those of you that don't know it, that's the same school, just different name. He has a BS, an MS, and a PhD from the Pennsylvania State University from 1962 to 72. He was a teacher at the Central High School from 66 to 68. He taught biology, anatomy, physiology, and physical science. He was assistant professor of biology at Lebanon Valley College from 72 to 73, an assistant associate and professor of biology at Elizabethtown College from 73 to 2007. He taught human anatomy, human physiology, comparative anatomy, and general physiology. Mentored student research centered around the effects of mine acid drainage on the physiological I can't say that word, of brook trout. Students presented papers at the annual meeting of the Pennsylvania Academy of Sciences. He was the chair of the biology department for 10 years, chair of the Health Professions Advisory Committee. He advised students seeking admission to medical school, osteopathic school, dental school, veterinary school, and optometry school. He developed pre-med medical partnerships with Penn State, Hershey College of Medicine, and the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He has a Steinman Awards for teaching excellence and an emeritus professor of biology, Elizabethtown College, 2007 to present. At this time, give a big hand for Dr. James Dively.
It's good to see you guys. So it's nice if you turned out to listen to what I wanted to talk about today. And I really won't bore you a lot because what I'm going to be dealing with a lot is going to be going to college and beyond. But all you guys may have that in mind, so it's probably not too early to hear some of this information. So at any rate, what my plan is, I'm going to talk about myself and talk about the things I went through from the time I was probably a senior in high school here until eventually I went to Penn State, and then from there on to Elizabethtown College. So I'm going to go into all the trials and tribulations I went through, because there were many. And one thing I want you to be aware of, even though there were a lot of things in my background that I sometimes had trouble with, when you guys have it within you to do practically anything you want to do. You just have to set your mind to it. And that's basically what I'm going to be trying to impress upon you. So I have a lot of slides here from a PowerPoint presentation. So who am I? My parents were Robert Dively and Garnet Dively. They were both born in the Claysburg area. You probably won't believe this. Dad in 1902 and my mother in 1912. And that's a long time ago. And I was born in 1945. So I think at times, I don't think I was terribly much planned for. I just happened. So that was supposed to be a little bit of a joke, guys. You can laugh a little. As far as my education here, I thought it was very good. I had a great education in the sciences, and I have mentioned up on the screen several people. Ted DeLozier, you probably maybe know I was being a football coach here for many years, but he taught biology. Galen Dively I had for chemistry, maybe for math, I'm not sure. George Zakin, who taught mathematics. And those folks did a great job. And so when I went off to college, I was well prepared in those areas. Extracurricular activities, what did I do when I was here? I played some sports, not very well. I loved sports, but I was kind of inept at the time. So being in sports wasn't a highlight, although I made a lot of friends doing that. I also was on the chorus, I sang in the chorus. I think I did something in student government, something on the yearbook staff. So I was involved in a number of things. The classmates were great, and I still very much enjoy meeting with them. I'll see them. In fact, we ate dinner last night with about 10 or 15 classmates of mine. And they have an annual fall picnic, and I come back for that and so on. So I've made, they're lifelong friends with the, the folks in the class. And they've been very good. And so when I was getting ready to graduate, what next? I really didn't have much of an idea. I looked around at my classmates, and most of them were thinking of going on to college. So I think since they were doing it, I was going to do it too. So that's the next slide here. I had to decide on a college, I had to decide on a major, and I didn't receive a lot of help from the home front. My mother and father had never graduated from high school. They ended up dropping out and entering the workforce. And so I was trying to, figure out what to do pretty much on my own. I didn't know what to major in. I didn't really have any strong feelings one way or the other about the particular class or a particular major. I ended up going into drafting and design, of all things, a 2-year program. I wasn't even considering going beyond the 2 years. The one thing, if nothing else, for you young folks here, this is something that you ought to be aware of that exists. There's a website put out by the government. It's called the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it has about every possible job known to humankind on it. And there's an awful lot of information that you can find there. I'm going to call this up, hopefully. Before I get there, you can see it has median pay, the education you need to enter into the profession, if you need work experience, if you get on-the-job training, number of jobs in 2014, number of jobs in 2024. You're trying to see if there are going to be a lot of jobs available then, and how to become one. So this is that website. And this is the front page on it. And if you look here, there's occupational groups which you can look down through and kind of decide if there's anything there that interests you. I like this A to Z index. If you have a definite idea about what you may be interested in, you can call that up. So if I hit on the A button there and call up, these are all professions. It takes a minute for these to download. It's kind of slow. But these will be all possible jobs where the job begins with an A. So you can get in and call up a particular one and get all the information about it. So for the seniors, how many are seniors? No seniors? Juniors? I see some older students there. What grade are you in? Are you graduated?
Come on, guys.
Pardon?
Come on, guys. You can answer. Come on. We're going to 10.
I can't hear you.
We're going to 10.
Going to 10. Okay. So what's the oldest one in 10th grade? Is that the oldest? Okay. All right, well, this will be, at least you can find out the things you're going to have down the way to look at. So, things to do. So anyhow, these are all the A jobs. And they go on and on and on and on and on. And somewhere down here, B, it comes up. There's B, and these are all the jobs that begin with B. And so you can get on and call those up and get all kind of information about them. I don't know do you guys have, any of you have an interest? Want me to call up one of them? Yes. Pardon?
Architect.
Architect. We'll go back to A's. Okay? That's a good career. See if I can find it on here. Architect. Okay, except, that's good, I guess. Okay, this is the page then, and you can see the median pay was about almost $77,000 a year. Typical entry-level education, a bachelor's degree. That means you graduated from college, probably in something, maybe an architectural program. Work experience needed none. On-the-job training, internships and residence, I guess, at times occur as a part of your education. Number of jobs in 2014, 112,600. And notice their job outlook, 7% growth, as fast as average. And notice employment change between 2014 and 2024, 7,800. So those will be more new people coming in. And you can see here the work environment is listed. You want to see what work environment is. Pull that up. Whoops, didn't I do that? I don't know what I did. I just went someplace I didn't want to be. picture back here. That's the work environment. I'm not going to get down and read these. You guys can read it on your own. But that's work environment. You can also get the how to become, pay. We already talked about that generally. Job outlook, state and area data. You can go by state and find out what the outlook looks like in, say, Pennsylvania, or if you're going to move out of state, some other state. Similar occupations and so on. So again, I don't think it's too early for you young folks in here to maybe start looking at something on this Bureau of Labor Statistics. And you can tell your mom and pop about it, and they can look at it as well, and maybe talk to you about maybe what you want to do with your life. For the I guess to be juniors, is that correct? To be juniors? Okay. There's a lot of information here for you folks. This is what you ought to be doing now. You ought to be looking at this because you have to make a decision if you're going on to college or not. And if you're going to go on to college, what's it going to be in? I'm not saying you have to go on to college. There are a lot of good jobs that are out there not requiring a college education. But again, you can come through and look at those and find out the availability of them. Anybody else want me to pull something else up? Oh, I've got a lot of volunteers now. I'll get one of the older folks back in the back. You say engineering? Okay. Let me go back and see if I can find that. It starts with an E. What kind of engineering, do you know? Okay, I'm not sure if they'll break it out. I'll look at electrical. Now this thing has to download again. That's the great thing about computers. They are slow at times. So give me a moment. I should start singing a song here. Probably drive you right away. Okay. If I can spell engineering. Okay. Engineering, research, a lot of different things in engineering. Engineering geologist, manager, psychologist. Maybe I should look at electrical engineering. See what's under there. Sometimes you have to root around to find a particular site. Electrophysiology. Should I one of you young folks who are running this for it? Electrical, okay, there, that's a professor. You don't want that. Electrical engineer technician. No, that's a director. Architect, let me go back again. Shoot. I'm going to go on, guys. I'll be up here soon. I'd like to answer your questions. Maybe come down at the end of the presentation. Okay, we'll find things for you then. I apologize for this. My wife's back there saying, keep going. She's all the time giving me directions at times. Okay, but again, I know if you have pencil and paper, you guys could write down that internet. It's https www.dls.gov.oh. And I think there's going to be something prepared to give this to you anyhow. So it'll be sent out to you. Okay. I went to Penn State my freshman year. I didn't go to the main campus. I went to the Altoona campus, primarily because it was cheaper. You probably won't believe this, but at that time, the tuition was $600 for the whole year, and then the room and board, if I would have been staying on the main campus, would have been $600. So for $1,200 a year, you could have gotten, a college education. And now, I retired from Elizabethtown College, and their combined fee when I left was over $50,000 a year. So that's the huge change that's happened in the price of education. And I don't know if it's worth it, but you folks will have to judge that, and it's open to me. I think I got a pretty good education. at $1,200 a year when I was going. When I was started to college, I didn't do very well in the beginning. And the first Penn State, you know what when I say term system, you know what I mean by term system? Yes or no? No? Okay. Anyhow, term system, you normally, colleges today, most of them have a semester system. You go 2 semesters, one in the fall, partway into the winter, and then one in the winter spring. When I was there, it was a term system, 3 terms a year. So my first term, I had about a 2.3 average. 2.3 may not make any sense to you, but I had 1 B and 2 C's in the courses I took. The second term, I had a 2.6. I think I had 2 B's and a C. And then the third term, I had all A's. I went to a 4.0 average. And I was the same person, but what I did was I learned how to study. And this is something you guys ought to listen to, study skills. It's not too early for you guys that are, of the younger set, and to be juniors, seniors, is something you ought to keep in mind about what you have to do to become a good student. So, notice here, I put out, you have to find a good place to study. I don't know when you guys study, if you study at all, I have no idea. But notice there, you have to find a good place to study. Could be in your bedroom at home now. When you go off to college, it could be in very unusual places. When I was at Penn State, I studied a lot in it was called the Hub. It was the student activities building on the main campus. I would go in there in the lounge area, which was usually filled up with 100 to 200 students sitting, and they made enough noise that I was completely lost as far as any noise that was bothering me. But again, you have to find a place to study. I have this young lady up here on the left who's shown studying in the library. The one on the right, unfortunately, is what a lot of college students do. They let their study go to the very last minute, and then they do it late at night, and they fall asleep. And they really never do a very good job studying. So find a good place to study, and study when you're wide awake. This, again, may not make a lot of sense for the youngsters in here. I say youngsters, I mean everybody under probably 20 is a youngster for me. But keep in mind, this is what I did when I was a student. I had to take notes. I don't know, do you guys get notes in your classes, or you get PowerPoint handouts, or what? PowerPoint handouts, but you're given those? Okay. If you get notes, when your teacher goes over those notes, you probably ought to write things in the margins to explain things to yourself. And I suppose they give you reading assignments. Do you have textbooks where you get reading assignments? What I always did was, as soon as I had the notes, I would go back to my study area and do the reading at that point. And then once I had done the reading, I would add notes to my notes, or notes onto your PowerPoint handout. Making sure you understand. That's the most critical thing you can do at the very beginning as you're going through your course. Make sure you're understanding the material. So that's what I've talked about here. I talked about writing explanatory notes, review your notes daily, don't wait. When I was teaching at the college level, I had a lot of students. We didn't give exams every week. We gave exams probably every 3 to 4 weeks. And I would have students who never did anything till the night before the exam. And they failed miserably. They couldn't do that. They really didn't understand, they couldn't memorize, and they struggled. And so I don't know how many students I talked to about study skills when I was teaching. And a lot of it, what I'm giving you, it's the same thing I gave to them. So what you end up doing, guys, what you should be doing is learning your material before you ever take an exam. And that's a critical thing for you to do. This, I even show you this, there's probably spelling mistakes in here, but these are my notes. This is actually a notebook when I was in graduate school. And these are notes, I guess you can see the cursor up there. These are the notes that I took in class. And then these are the notes that I added to this material when I did the reading. So you understand, this was class material, maybe the stuff you got when you were getting your PowerPoint handout and things you had written on it. This would be things that you added afterwards as you did the reading. when you do this, you actually learn the material. It's a good way to learn. Exam time, notice, study when you're awake, not like this guy, or I guess it's a gal. When I was showing this to my wife, she thought I took a picture of her. This is my wife. My wife is sitting over here in the third row back. Okay? So I had to tell her it wasn't her. And the first thing I always did, and again, I may bore you out of your minds, but I would sit down and memorize an outline for the notes. Memorize an outline. Everything in the outline was very well organized, and then I used that outline to give myself a test. I would sit and go over the outline, and as I went down the outline, the information should immediately come to mind, in my mind if I knew it. I remember when I was in college, I would do this the last thing at night before I went to bed. I would sit there back. Can you imagine, instead of saying my prayers, I was going over my outline. And if I got to a point in the outline, I couldn't figure out what it was, I'd get out of bed, turn the light back on, get the notes out, and look at it again. When I was done studying, it was almost as if I was taking an open book test. The open book was right here, guys, in my mind. So it became very easy. So when I started studying this way, the only thing I was worrying about whether I was getting an A or a B. I didn't worry about a C. The fact is, I don't know if you're probably not aware of this, but in graduate school, you can sometimes just audit a course. You're not taking it for a grade at all. You're just interested in the subject matter. Believe it or not, you may find something you're interested in, and so you take a course in that. And anyhow, I was asked to take a course. I can't even think of what it is now. I took the course, and the prof who taught the course wanted me to take the exams anyhow. So I didn't study. All I did was keep the outline and add notes to the margins of the outline. I would have done an A in the course in the exams that were given, without studying at all for the exam specifically. All the studying was done day by day as I went through my notes. So keep that in mind. Coming from Claysburg, I don't know how you feel about what your education is about, what it's like. It should not matter a lot to you in one way. If you have good study skills, you can overcome anything that you may feel that you don't know well from your high school experience. But it's all going to depend on you. Notice at the bottom here, I have mentioned no-dos. I guess they're still sold. Can you buy no-dos and what they are? You have no idea. It's probably good. But no-dos are a caffeine pill that you could buy. I remember one time I had 2 final exams on one day. I had to, go over my material the night before. So I ended up studying till about 11 or 12 o'clock, I think, and I wasn't nearly done. I just didn't think so. So I took a no-dose pill, gave myself a caffeine jolt. And then I got through my rest of my material much more quickly. And I was then around probably 1:30, and I wanted to go to bed. I couldn't go to sleep. So I lay there and tossed and turned, finally fell asleep about probably 6 in the morning, and had to get up at 6:30 or 7 o'clock to go to class. It wasn't the way to do it. I survived, but it certainly wasn't ideal. Sophomore to senior years of college, everything became very easy. College was not difficult. My only concern was what I was going to do with the rest of my life. I had no idea. I started out, I mentioned drafting and design. Then I eventually went into secondary education in biology. And I ended up exploring still more yet. Notice there I mentioned biochemistry, zoology, like mathematics. I liked all those areas. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I eventually changed my major back to biology secondary education, primarily because I wasn't going to graduate. I was going all out exploring, wasn't taking courses I needed, and so because of that, I actually had to go an extra term to get the courses I needed to graduate. So again, is it unusual that you change your major? No. Probably you guys, the ones of you going to college, you probably change your major at least one time, if not 2. something, you may change it because of your interest changing. You may find out when you thought chemistry was a great major, all you get were C's in the chemistry exams, and you decided chemistry wasn't for you, that kind of thing. So academics will determine somewhat what you're going to end up majoring in. First job, I taught at your neighboring high school, taught at Central High School. Is anybody here from Central? Okay. I may have had your grandparent in class. You guys are from Central, dramatically. Okay. But I taught there back in the 60s, 66 to 68. And it was a great experience. I enjoyed myself there very much. I enjoyed the teachers that were there. We did a lot of things together, and it was a great place to be. Notice I taught 10th grade biology. When do you guys take biology? Is it 10th grade? Juniors, seniors? When do you take biology?
10th grade.
10th grade, okay. Okay, so I taught 10th grade biology. I taught anatomy and physiology, and that's my area that I really knew very well. And that was primarily for students who were thinking about going on to a healthcare field. Then I taught a physical science class. The physical science class was taken by students who really did not have any aspiration to go on and get any other degrees at all once high school was over. They just were there, they were putting in time until they graduated. It was actually a course eventually I learned to love to teach the most, because it was a challenge, and I learned a lot of teaching skills teaching that group, because if I could go and get them interested, I could probably, teach most anyone. So a lot of what I was doing was trying to relate what I was teaching to them every day, so that they saw some rhyme or reason for what I was doing. I wasn't too much worried about covering huge amounts of content. We did a lot of discussion, talking about this or that, the other thing, and it was a great experience. So, any of you who are thinking about teaching, you may not come out of college knowing how to teach, even though you may have gone through education courses. It's only when you get in the classroom that you finally figure out what you have to do. Graduate school, I hate to bring this up because that's so far down the road for you folks, but I knew I had to go back and get additional courses. You know what I mean when I say get courses for permanent certification? You guys are aware of that? Your teachers have to be permanently certified. So I knew I had to go back and get some courses. So I looked at going to graduate school. Some of you probably have taken the SAT. How many of you have taken the SAT exam? Nobody yet. SATs? Okay. Well, at any rate, there are similar exams called the GREs for graduate schools to take. And I took those. I thought I would go and look at Penn State, try to go there and get a major just to get my master's degree. I wasn't even thinking about anything more. Notice there, this all occurred in 1968, which for you folks is back in the dark ages, I'm sure. But 1968, we were in a war in Vietnam. There was two assassinations, Martin Luther King, Robert Kennedy, it's JFK's brother. There were a lot of protests going on campuses, wherever you were. Personally, notice there, I took the graduate record exam where he said that, got married, so that was in 68, moved to State College. And I have to mention when we got married, my wife just graduated from Penn State the day before. So she graduated on Saturday. We got married on Sunday, took about a 3-day honeymoon, and immediately went up to State College and started in graduate school. It was a very hectic time. Notice there I had a major in entomology. Notice on the right-hand side of the screen, what do you see there? A lot of bugs. Well, that's what entomology is, the study of bugs. And I think you're going to have somebody come shortly, another diver is going to come and talk to you folks, and his expertise, I think, is in entomology. It wasn't mine. I didn't like it at all. So I very quickly, and this was done over the summer of that year, I decided I didn't want to stay in entomology. I wanted to get out of that. I wanted to get in pursue some of the graduate program. And I always liked fisheries. I love the fish. I love the fly fish. I like to do that. So fisheries was always in the back of my mind. So what did I do? I went over onto the main life sciences building on the Penn State campus and went door to door, knocking on doors to see if anybody had any money to fund me so I could get my master's degree. That is not the way to go and get a master's degree. It worked, but it wasn't the way to do it. So I ended up getting into a lab that was doing studies on mine acid draining and on the physiology and histochemistry. Histochemistry probably doesn't mean anything to you at all, but it's the chemistry of of tissue sections, of little imprints you made of tissue cells. And so I said it was successful. Actually, for you guys, I put a beating heart up the screen. So, nice beating heart. You ought to say, ooh, ah, that's neat. Thank you, that's good. I also had a kind of a thing showing the cardiac cycle over and all the things that happen in the heart. Not that you have to worry about it at all. That's something I got in graduate school. Okay, again, I already mentioned toxic effect of mine acid drain. There's a lot of that north of here, I think, when you get out there. Oh, what is it? What are the northern counties above Blair? Anyhow, I think there's a lot of strip mining done in that area. There's a lot of mine acid draining. This is showing you a guy by the name of Harry Crispin. We had to go to a lab out in Cincinnati and build one of these things. You see what I'm pointing to? It's called a gravity flow proportional diluter. It's kind of a Rube Goldberg apparatus for dumping known amounts of a toxin into a running water system and getting out with a certain concentration in the tanks where you had your organism. That probably didn't make any sense at all. But we were delivering different pH water to aquarium and studying the effects of different pHs on trout. Again, things went well. Notice there, now you have to think, guys, this was back over 50 years ago. My fellowship was $2,000 a year. It was an NDEA fellowship. That's what I got to support me. My wife worked as a medical technologist, I think, for about $6,000 a year. We were making $8,000 a year. I was getting an education at a time probably when most of the people were not making near that amount of money. We actually came out of graduate school with money in the bank and a new car, if you can believe that, in addition to the degree. Okay, memories from graduate school. It's one thing here, if you don't listen to anything I'm saying, I want you to listen to one of these as we get down through this. Notice here, I enjoyed it, it was fun. I looked back on it when I was there, I probably thought it was pure hell, but it was actually fun. I enjoyed it. Courses I enjoyed, the research was of value. And then notice I played on a softball team called the Nads. I'm not going to go into why we call it the Nads. That's not that significant for you folks. But the important thing for me was there was a guy on that team as well. Not that he was getting a graduate degree in biology, but he was getting a graduate degree in mathematics. I became friends with him, and he taught at Elizabethtown College. So that was part of the reason I ended up going to E-Town to teach, was because of him. This next one, notice the value of writing skills. How much writing do you guys do? A lot? When do you do your writing? Every day. Okay. If you have an assignment to hand in, like you have to write a brief essay, when do you do it? Night before? You're thinking? Night before, you're not saying anything? Pardon? Okay, but let's suppose I would give you a writing assignment today, and you go home, and when would you write it? Today, the next day, if it's not due for a week. Pardon? I can't hear you. What did you say? Today. Well, that's good. In one way. You're working on it. I don't know if you know anything at all about graduate school. You have to write a thesis of your research. Remember, I was in a program that was doing research, and I had to write a thesis on what I was doing. And in that thesis, you have to have an introduction, which is a review of scientific literature. You have to have a materials and methods of what you did and how you did it. You have a results section of what you found when you did the research. There was a discussion section where you discussed what your findings were. And then there was a literature cited section. That's all the material you looked up maybe in a library for you guys, or maybe on the internet, something like that. Well, I did this. I went and spent probably 2 or 3 weeks working on this, took it in and gave it to my advisor, and he practically threw it back in my face. He said, it's not worthwhile my reading this. It's pure garbage. Now, I don't know if he really meant it or not, or that's how he treated everybody. At least that's what he said to me. So I took it back and wrote it again, put it away, read it, wrote it again, put it back, wrote it again, finally took it in and gave it to him, and he said it's fine. Didn't do anything to it. Notice what I'm talking about here is write, rewrite. Did you ever hear that? Write, rewrite. Do your English teachers practice that? Somebody say something, yes, no?
Yeah.
They do, that's good, if they do. I mean, that's what you have to do to learn to write. You should end up being your own worst critic, okay, when you're doing your writing. Notice, I ended up studying at Penn State, got my PhD, and that's me in 1970. Good-looking guy. More hair, that's right, okay. Following the beginning of my doctorate, I knew I wanted to keep teaching. I wasn't that interested in going back to high school, even though I probably would have done a good job there. I looked at colleges in Pennsylvania. When you're looking for a college to actually go and teach at, you frequently go into a journal in your field, and there'll be ads posted somewhere about different colleges looking for different professors to teach. And so I did my studies. There were 2 colleges looking for somebody like me to teach. One was Lebanon Valley College. Have you ever heard of that? LVC, Lebanon Valley College. It's in Annville, Pennsylvania, down near Harrisburg. The other was Elizabethtown College. It's in Elizabethtown, also down near Harrisburg. So I ended up, I took a 1-year appointment at Lebanon Valley College. Why not at E-Town? E-Town only had I took a permanent appointment at LVC, but E-Town, their offer was only for a 1-year appointment. They were putting a new program in occupational therapy, and they needed someone to teach anatomy and physiology, and the whole program had not been approved yet. So all they could guarantee was a 1 year. So I didn't go there. At that time, I went to LBC, enjoyed it very much. Eventually, the E-Town position became permanent, and I went back there. Ended up being there for 34 years, a long time. Notice what I taught. Human anatomy. I don't know if you guys know what human cadavers are. You know what human cadavers are? Maybe I can gross you out. You know what? They're bodies, they're human bodies, and we taught that course primarily for students that were interested in going into physical therapy or occupational therapy or pre-med. And so these students did cadaver dissections. We got 2 cadavers a year. We had to go up to the Hershey Medical Center, which was close by, and these were donated bodies, the people whose bodies they were, before they had passed on. That's what they wanted to happen to their bodies, to be used for scientific purposes. So we made, I hate to say it, cadaver runs up to Hershey and back, and to get cadavers at least once a year. And so the students then, I had in class, did the dissection. So I was there kind of as a team leader, so to speak. It's a very unique experience, but a good experience for people that were looking at health care. So notice there I mentioned, what my students were studying. You can see on this statement here, it's the bottom. Is that showing up at all? Can't even find my cursor. I guess I should use this. I brought this. I haven't used it. What's going on? There we go. Okay, there's what they were thinking to major in. And then here is one of my med students, Joe Hines. He graduated the year I retired in 2007. And if you look there, he's in Altoona. That's where he came back to work. He's in the Altoona area, in the hospice and palliative medicine area at the Altoona Regional Health System. So he's a local person. Hopefully you won't have to see him. Little joke class. Thank you. Okay. When I was teaching, you may find this hard to believe, but when I was teaching, there was so much material that was critical, I thought, for the understanding of what I was going over, that I ended up actually making a copy of my notes. So I gave the students my notes, verbatim. Here's what you need to know. And I explained the notes in class, and they would sit. Remember how I told you about writing things in the margins? They did the same thing. They wrote information in the margins. and then they had to learn that material. I want to show you, let me get out of here in a second. These are my renal physiology notes from 10 years ago. Okay? You guys have anything about kidneys? You know they exist, right? For the young folks, you know you have kidneys. Probably for the junior and sophomore juniors, you probably have biology, you know their kidneys. But I'm not going to go through this with you to bore you really to death. But I'm just going to scan down through what was in my notes. Notice the first part there is a lot of histology of kidneys and nephrons. This is the histology of the various areas of the nephron. This is showing you some of more histology cells that make up the nephron. Here's a unit called the glomerulus, where filtration in the kidney and nephron occurs. This is showing you some of the ultrastructure of nephrons. I keep going. Some more about the actual structure of them. Here's blood supply coming to a kidney, to a nephron. That's a drawing showing you blood supply. Functions. Most of the rest of this is on functions. I'm not going to talk about those, but there's a lot of drawings you can see as I go through. A lot of things that go from you try to visually show things, and things you can never see, you still try to show it on drawings. So when I get down here, this is showing you movement of materials through a cell in the kidney. It shows the transport mechanisms involved there, and so on. Another the same thing. So that's enough of that. I probably winged it there. So let me get out of here. Come back into this again. So I gave students my notes. If you know anything about people who teach, the one thing you worry about greatly is if you give students your notes, are they ever going to come to class? Because when you're in the college level, you don't have to go to class in most cases. They don't care if you come or not. You have a lot of freedom when you're at the college level. And so I was always worried, are the kids going to show up or not? Well, they did. They showed up invariably because they wanted to learn and wanted to understand the material. So notice that even though the notes were handed out, they came because they thought it was a great benefit. There's also research. You guys who are going on to college may end up doing little research projects. Notice that I was involved in that, but when you're looking at this up here, one of the things I had to do a lot was help them design projects, teaching them the instrumentation, the things they were going to, the machines they were going to use to collect data. I had to review their papers, and then I had to prepare them in many cases to give an oral presentation at a scientific meeting. So that was something I did in addition to the teaching. It was teaching more one-on-one. So notice the critical thing there is they were learning what scientists do to collect data. Okay? Notice I had to continue to learn my area of expertise. So that was physiology. If I would teach what I taught in 1973, in 2007, I would be laughed at. It was very much out of date. So one of the things you folks are going to find is no matter what you do, you've got to keep current, you've got to keep up to date. And critically, you have to learn to self-teach yourself material. Okay? I did it all my life. I had to go to the journals, go to good textbooks, and redo my notes. Every year, you know, the type notes I showed you there, I would revise them, put new information in. When I started teaching in 1973, 72 at the college level, you guys know anything about, you probably don't have any idea what I'm talking about. Cell signaling mechanism? Probably not. You heard of hormones, did you know? If a hormone binds to a cell, the cell does something. Well, the cell signaling mechanism is what happens from the time the hormone binds to the cell until the cell does something. It's all the other steps that are involved. That was all new. So all that happens yearly. You have to keep it in mind. Self-education is critical. Okay. Chaired the biology department, which is fun. I'm not going to say anything more about it. I did chair the health advisory committee. I don't know, any of you interested in going into medicine? Any doctors? I see one over there. Dentists? Well, if any of you guys want to ask me any questions about the health professions, what you need to do to get into them and so on, talk to me after we're done talking here. Or after we're done talking. Okay, this is you. Laugh. Thank you. This information, I'm not going to get out and read all that for you or to you, but I went and talked to a couple of my old colleagues at Elizabethtown and what they see in their freshman students coming into college. Look at those. A lot of students who did very well in high school don't do very well in college. They struggle. So be aware of that. If you don't have good study skills, if you're not pushed in high school, if high school is too easy, that's not good. You may not have the study skills to do well in college. You have to understand what you're doing, see that. You have to question yourself to see if you understand. You must understand and memorize. If you don't understand, you get help. Okay? And that's important. Get help, don't wait. Reading. I see most students your age fiddling around with iPhones all the time. Is that true? Yeah, you get more head shaking that way. That's probably one of the worst things you can do, spending your time on iPhones. You need to read. Read books, that kind of thing. Give up your way to reading. You read books? Pardon? You're reading on the iPhone, probably. There's a dissension in the troops. Okay, but keep in mind, read when you can. Develop those reading skills, and reading for understanding is important. Math is also poor, frequently. Your writing skills are poor. It's a step up when you go from high school to college. You adapt or you flunk out. That's putting it pretty bluntly. You don't do well. So you have to adapt. If you guys